The Armor and Apparel display cases are finally coming live with Update 26 after being in the game files for so many months. Let me show you how everything works. Hello everyone, welcome back to another Fallout 76 video. Mannequins and Power Armor display cases just went live for testing on the public test servers, and there's a lot of things you should know in preparation for Update 26 coming live later in April. As such, I will go over the main system rules, major issues, and overall everything relevant I discovered so far. Anyway, I must warn you that the player reception and feedback hasn't been the best so far, but don't you worry, you are about to find out why in great detail. Well, without any further delay, let's get into it. Mannequins and Power Armor display cases are now live on the public test servers, but what you probably wouldn't have guessed is that both items have shared slots. Yeah, you can only build 5 of them per camp or shelter, and by them, I mean they work as a unit. They are part of the same internal category, armor display cases. I know, what a letdown, right? I actually didn't notice this when I was testing the mannequins, but as soon as I moved to the Power Armor displays, I noticed my 5 items limit had been reached already, and my first thought here was, well, this must be a bug, right? Since I only built 1 Power Armor display so far, how comes I'm already at the 5 item limit? But it's not a bug, it's a system rule. I built 4 mannequins beforehand, so 4 plus 1 equals 5. I'm really not a fan of this slot merge thing for the simple fact that apparel is not exactly armor, so they shouldn't fall into the same exact category. But regardless of my opinion, this is something really important to know since it can drastically affect your building. So there you go. For now, you will have to work your way around the shared slots. 5 units is the limit per camp and per shelter. Before we move on to what you can add to these new displays, do let me inform you that the new mannequins and Power Armor display cases also share something else in common. They are super heavy on your camp budget. To find out how heavy exactly, I decided to do a quick test. I built 5 mannequins at an empty camp slot, then I built 5 Power Armor displays, and as you can see, my budget bar is the same for both. So the first conclusion here is that both armor displays weigh the same exact amount, even if it's quite a lot. It's around 10% of the entire camp budget. But again, how heavy is that? We need a comparison point. So I went ahead and built 30 normal display cases, which is the limit for this category. And as you can see, the consumed budget is way less. I would say it's about half, to be honest. Well, that's another letdown, isn't it? I mean, how can 5 mannequins weigh double than 30 normal display cases when, you know, most of them are massive items made out of wood or metal, so if we think realistically, they all should weigh about the same, no? Well, there's still hope Bethesda will decrease this insane budget consumption, but right now it is what it is, and that's what we have. Now, let's move on to the great stuff, shall we? What can you add to the armor display cases or mannequins? Well, the answer is very simple. Everything. No joke. Well, everything you can see under the armor and apparel tabs. Of course, it's not like you can equip junk or aid items into the dummies. I mean, it would look interesting, but that's not the case. Now, I have spent over 1 hour testing and trying all sorts of combinations here, and there wasn't a single item so far that didn't work. In other words, Atomic Shop items and outfits can be displayed, as well as hats, masks, head decor, all sorts of armor pieces, even legendary armor, under armor, jumpsuits, hazmat suits, backpacks, and also wedding rings. That's right, the list goes on. I literally tried all the different types of items I could think of, and everything got equipped to the mannequins just fine. I also didn't encounter any major issues with this process, which in my view means the mannequins are quite polished already, and that's always a great sign. Alright, next we have a very important point because it can be deceiving and tricky if you are not aware of how the system works. Now, besides the mannequins and the power armor display cases, Bethesda also added these sort of frame stations. There are many variations, but all of them fall under the display category right now, despite it making absolute no sense. How comes, you may ask? Well, that's because this new frame is nothing like a display case. In fact, if you build one, you will quickly understand there is no interaction or any way to add items there. It's just a floor decor item, which allows you to build or move all sorts of items to its very core. So despite the name saying armor display frame, this item is nothing of the sorts. You can build many other items there as long as it fits, such as stash boxes, beds, paintings, furniture, and all sorts of decor really. With all of this in mind, I really think Bethesda should move the supposed armor frame into the floor decor or misc categories, because its purpose is to display items, yes, but not directly, and definitely not only armor, so it's quite deceiving as it is right now. Being labeled as a display case is way too tricky, and I don't think that's intended. I even had a few people asking me how to add power armor pieces there, when in reality, you can't. You need to add the real display frame first in order to make things work. Anyway, how difficult could it be to simply change sections in building modes? Well, either way, this is how it works, so don't get confused. Now that you know about how the power armor display system works, you need to build the empty frame first, not the frame station, as I showed you in the previous point. Then you can get started and add any power armors you feel like, as long as you have storage space. Yeah, about that you should wait for the next point. Now, just like the mannequins, you can add anything from the power armor world. I tried several different sets like Ultraside, Raiders, 51, 45, and even my Strangler Heart. With skins, without skins, I even mixed pieces from different sets, like a Frankenstein kind of monster, and it works. Everything worked surprisingly, which means the combinations are pretty much endless. You can do pretty much whatever you want. However, despite this versatility on displaying every power armor in game, there are quite some concerning issues, as you are about to find out. Okay, so first of all, adding power armor pieces into this new display is a nightmare, in my view. It takes so much time and it's far from being user-friendly. Let's start with crafting. As per usual, you need your own power armor frame to craft any new pieces. Then you need to loot these pieces from the frame, and only then you can add them to display cases. If you want to swap pieces from your display, you gotta do it in reverse. Move the pieces into your inventory and then get them from the frame and add them back to the display. It's a very long process filled with frustration. Plus, let's not forget power armor weighs a lot, so getting over encumbered while working on your new power armor display cases is inevitable. But hold on, there is a far worse issue with this system, and you're not going to like it, I can assure you that much. Just like all the other display cases, whenever you add or allocate items into a display, they get sent to your stash, taking over your storage space. Before Update 26, things were not so bad since most items, excluding weapons and armor, are relatively light. But now, with the power armor display cases, it's a different story. Because if you want to display a full set, a single one, you need around 80 to 100 free pounds in your stash. And that's just for one single one. Remember, point 1? You can build up to 5 per camp or shelter, so if you have unlocked several shelters at this point, and you would like to, let's say, build 10 to 15 power armor displays, that means you would need around 1000 to 1500 stash space to add all the parts. That's completely insane, right? It's so badly thought that, well, these limits cannot be followed. The current stash limit is 1200, so how can you ever fill up 15 power armor display cases with one single character, when it requires around 1500 stash space? You simply cannot, right? So these limits are pretty much visual pollution there. It's there, but nobody can follow it because there's another game rule blocking this new rule. Anyway, I have seen a very clever solution for this problem on Bethesda's forums, where this player suggests a weightless effect for any power armor added for display. This way, players wouldn't need around 100 free stash to display one single set anymore. I totally agree with his idea, but there's a lot Bethesda could do here to make things more realistic and practical. If they leave it as it is though, I'm afraid very little people will bother to use these new displays. I mean, are you willing to sacrifice hundreds of stash space just to display some power armor? I surely rather keep my stash space, but maybe that's just me. Well, while dealing with stash space issues, I came to the conclusion that going for lighter power armor sets is the solution if Bethesda doesn't change the system as it is now. It's not like you can save half space, but you can easily save 10 to 20 pounds per set if you choose the lighter ones instead of the heavy options. For example, the Ultrasight and the 51 sets are quite heavy. They weigh basically 100 pounds each with all the parts. But if you go for the Raiders or the 45 sets, you can save around 20 pounds in comparison with the first two. It's not a lot, I know, but I think 20 stash space is worth the trade. Now, I'm no power armor expert, but maybe there's even lighter sets out there. Anyway, let's hope Bethesda will find a solution for this issue, but if they don't, I think this tactic will become quite popular. Next, I want to show you a very annoying bug I discovered while testing the power armor displays. Sometimes, or quite often actually, when you are adding power armor pieces into the display, some pieces bug out. They are transferred into the display, but they are not assigned for display. Yeah, I know, it doesn't make any sense, it's really confusing. The only way to fix this though is to loot the part back and equip it again until it assigns correctly. Now, I have been experiencing this more often when I try to quickly assign all the parts as quickly as possible, you know, kinda like spamming clicks on them. However, when I do it more slowly to give the system some time to register each part, then this bug doesn't happen at all. So I think I found a new bug and a way around it as well. Pretty clever, I think. I hope it's helpful to you as well. The next point is about something strange. It's more like a curious fact actually. I spotted some blue parts inside the power armor display case and I wondered, what the heck are they? After inspecting it closely, I realized there is some sort of dummy figure inside the frame and it's wearing a Vault 76 jumpsuit. I'm serious, you can even see the numbers on the back. I also found this datamine model which proves there's really a headless dummy filling the display case. Why though? I have no idea. I mean, we already have empty frames, so I'm not sure why would Bethesda decide to fill it up for the player displays. It kinda looks weird, especially with power armors without full coverage, because you see these blue patches all over the power armor and it just doesn't fit in. But hey, I'm sure they had a good reason to do this, right? Still, why not add a gray or black under armor, you know, something neutral? Ay, 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 caramba, let's keep moving. Something else that is really wrong is the lack of visual information on your stash. In the live servers, the system tells you when you have assigned items to display cases, vendors, and even ally clothes. However, now there is a bug that removes all this information. For example, my friend here can see his stash with tags just fine, like in the live servers, but on my end, it's all gone. I tested on both shelters and my camp. As shown, I have no labels. It's like I have no items for sale or on display, when in reality, I do. So this is another concerning issue because it will make things really confusing. I mean, how will you know what items are set for display when you play different characters with different camps and shelters? Yeah, let's hope this one will get fixed before update 86 hits the official servers, because it's going to be a complete mess otherwise. Anyhow, one last thing here, the mannequin slot icon is supposed to be this one, datamined by Waster93. It's similar to the icon we have for ally clothes, but it's not the same, so here it is. I have yet another issue to show you about the new display cases. Right now, they have no physics. In other words, you can run through them as if they didn't exist. They have no presence, and as such, players and probably enemies too can go through these displays and even blend in together like a charm. Now, as far as I know, this issue could be easily fixed. Literally, all it takes is one number change according to the data miner and modder Waster93, who already fixed this issue in his own game. Well, if it is that simple, then we can assume Bethesda will get his one fixed before Update 26 gets released, right? Let's wait and see. As the last point, I have yet another bug I discovered. Sometimes the system does not let you place or move these new display cases. It can tell you different placement errors, such as the item needs support, or in my case here, it kept saying I cannot place the item in the water, even though there was no water there. I mean, thanks God, a float inside the shelter is no bueno. Jokes aside, this is not a new bug, but the fact that it can affect these new items is. So there you go. Oh, and one last thing, my friend Madocrot here found out that legacy power armors with jetpacks on the arm or leg parts will visually show when you put them on display. So I'm not sure you want to use such pieces for display purposes, unless you are going for a practical joke. In that case, this is a wonderful plan. Do it! Very well, now it's time to wrap things up. First impressions do matter, and in this case, I don't think Bethesda is doing a very great job. So far, all the feedback I've read was pretty negative. It's no pleasure for me to keep the trend going. At least the mannequins seem to be solid, they are working pretty well, and I hardly found any major issues. But when it comes to power armor displays, oh dear, it's a complete mess. It's a constant fight to use them, honestly. From parts not assigning correctly to this nightmare of a system that requires frame transfers here and there. But the worst of it all is really the stash consumption. I'm not sure who in their right mind thought that hundreds of stash requirement was a great idea. I really think that Bethesda didn't think about this detail at all. They just kept the same rules from the existing display case system and hoped it would work for Power Armor too. But well, it just doesn't. It's not okay to ask players to sacrifice hundreds and hundreds of storage just to display power armor. It's not right. After all, £100 for one single power armor set is nonsense. You can store like a dozen of weapons with that much space. Heck, you can even stash a full set inside the frame for just £15. So yeah, something really needs to change here. But that's going to be everything for this overview. I am Marta Branco. Thank you so much for having me. I hope I could keep you up to date with everything Fallout 76, and in this case, about the new display cases. And don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't yet, to let YouTube know you enjoyed. And as usual, a huge thanks to all my dear supporters. You guys make the difference for me. Alright y'all, I will see you very soon in the next one. Until then, take care, adios, bye bye!